Heartwarming moment revealed, homeless girl inspires millionaire with incredible offer of hope for humanity. In a bustling American neighborhood where holiday lights twinkled like stars, 10-year-old Lily sat on the stoop of her makeshift shelter, her laughter ringing through the chilly air. Though her home was a ragged curtain of hope and struggle, her bright eyes sparkled with dreams of brighter days. Lily's mother was tired, her face lined with worry as they shared their meager dinner under the glow of holiday decorations that adorned nearby houses. Yet, even amidst adversity, Lily's spirit shone like a beacon, lighting up the hardest of days. One frosty morning, the scent of pine trees wafted past her, coupled with the whistle of carolers nearby. As her breath fogged in the air, she spotted a colorful flyer. Charity event, help local families in need. It proclaimed. An idea formed in her heart, exciting her the way few things could. Mama, a bake sale. We can raise money for the shelter, for others like us. Her mother smiled, worn but proud, encouraging her bubbly ambition. But in the shadows of towering mansions, a different story unfolded. James, a wealthy tech entrepreneur in a shiny luxury car, cruised through the neighborhood, but inside, he wrestled with a heavy emptiness. All the success in the world couldn't fill the void in his heart. Tailored suits and lavish parties felt hollow, the laughter of the elite echoed around him, yet he longed for genuine connection. His eyes wandered over the vibrant life surrounding him, families celebrating, children glowing with joy, and an unfamiliar pang of guilt struck him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. On the day of the bake sale, Lily set up a small table adorned with cookies, cupcakes, and the charm of her unwavering smile. Her sparkle lit everything up. The locals paused, their hearts warming at the sight of this resilient girl fighting for hope amidst hardship. She greeted every passerby, sharing her sincere dreams of a better life for her and others. Every crumb counts, she chirped, her laughter infectious. Drawn by the vibrant energy, James stopped, his curiosity piqued. Watching Lily, he felt the stirrings of purpose awaken within him. She spoke of community, family, and love, the things he had lost sight of. Her innocent faith ignited a fire within him, an urge to help blot out the shadows of his privilege. With a gentle smile, he approached her, a rich man who suddenly felt poorer than the girl in front of him, but as he offered to sponsor her effort, doubts rippled through his elite circle like wind in the trees. Why would he bother with them? They whispered, skepticism hanging in the air. Caught in the storm of privilege and prejudice, James confronted a truth he couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Lily's own history unfolded. Once a happy girl in a home of prosperity, she knew the weight of loss. Together, doubts and dreams tangled as they began to weave a campaign for change, but shadows of societal expectations loomed large around them. Would they find the courage to defy the very walls that tried to keep them apart? The community stirred, emotional investment rising like the first snowfall, beautiful, delicate, yet heavy with potential. As they stood on the cusp of a movement, the air crackled with possibility and fear, their destinies intertwined. Together, could they redefine what it meant to truly dream? The question hung in the air, fragile as a snowflake, waiting for the warmth of unity or the cold sting of division. Lily's little table bustled with excitement. Neighborhood kids stopped to admire her colorful display, while parents dug into wallets with smiles, encouraged by her unwavering spirit. As each cupcake was sold, the laughter around her grew, swirling in the crisp air like the sound of jingle bells. But joy danced with tension as James stood just outside the crowd, watching. Could he really make a difference? He felt a tug at his heart, a need to break free from his gilded cage. He glanced around and saw a couple whispering, shooting him sideways glances as they speculated. The murmurs prickled at him. Was it foolish to try? He took a deep breath, stepping closer. Lily. He called, his voice surprisingly steady. She turned with bright eyes, and her face lit up like the holiday lights behind her. "Mr. James." She beamed, as if he were an old friend. "Did you come to buy a cupcake?" "I came to help. More than just cupcakes." His resolve solidified with her hopeful gaze. "What do you need?" Joyful astonishment played on her features. "I want to help all the people in our neighborhood, Mr. James. Everyone deserves a warm meal and a safe place to sleep." Her sincerity echoed, breaking through the cloud of doubt enveloping him. "Let us make this bake sale bigger. We can invite the whole community, get local businesses involved," he suggested, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We can turn this into something meaningful." Lily clapped her hands, eyes sparkling. "Yes. A block party. With hot chocolate and crafts. Oh, Mama would love it." Her smile was infectious, a burst of warmth in an otherwise cold world. While they brainstormed, others started to hear the conversation. They lingered, gradually drawn in by her enthusiasm. The couple who had been observing stepped forward. "Can we help?" the woman asked, glancing at her husband, who nodded. "We have some decorations left over from our own holiday party." James couldn't believe it. This little girl was igniting a wave of connection he never expected. As people began lining up to contribute, explaining their ideas for booths and activities, he felt a rush of hope. Hearts were opening, hands reaching across divides they didn't know were there, but just as the planning took shape, so did the shadows of skepticism. A group from James' circle prowled nearby, their faces twisted with judgment. This wasn't the image they wanted associated with him. "Don't get too caught up, James," one sneered, crossing his arms. "You'll be just like them." The words cut deep, but he didn't flinch. Ignoring them, he turned back to Lily, fueled by her laughter and enthusiasm. There was something special here, a chance to bridge two very different worlds. "Together, we can show them what community really means," he assured her, his voice quiet yet firm. "We won't let their doubt stop us." As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow around them, the excitement grew. And yet, deep inside, a flicker of fear lingered. Would the community really come together? Would they embrace change, or turn away in suspicion? Lily's warmth eased his worries, yet the lingering doubt remained. As plans unfolded and excitement bubbled, one question lingered: when the day finally arrived, what would the community choose? Would they unite in hope or remain fractured? The stakes were high, and the clock was ticking. James awoke the next day with a fire in his heart. The memories of yesterday swirled through his mind: Lily's laughter, the warmth of the budding community, and the snide remarks that crawled beneath his skin. Bright sunlight streamed through his window, igniting possibilities. Today was the day he would find out if change could happen. He grabbed a notebook and a pen, determined to jot down a detailed plan. Lily's block party would not just be another event, it would be a celebration of hopes, dreams, and community spirit. He wrote down all the ideas they'd come up with: hot chocolate stalls, craft activities for kids, a warm meal station, and a donation drive for the local shelter. Inspiration bubbled within him as he imagined a larger world, one where everyone felt embraced. With the morning still young, he quickly dressed and headed to his office. Despite the pulse of work messages begging his attention, his focus remained on that emerging idea, the spark ignited by a child's dream. The building felt different today, stuffy and stale, as he sat at his desk surrounded by glistening screens and polished wood. He couldn't shake the feeling of being in the wrong place. The whispers of doubt from his circle echoed in his ears. But there was also a flicker of determination that propelled him forward. After hours of strategizing, he paused for breath and decided it was time to bring this vision to life. He picked up the phone. His fingers trembled as he dialed the number of several local businesses, introducing himself and pitching the block party idea. "We'd love your support," he stumbled initially, but soon found his voice. "We want to show that together we can make a difference in our community." Responses came in waves, some enthusiastic, some hesitant. But for every cold reception, there were bursts of excitement. A local bakery agreed to donate pastries. A nearby coffee shop offered hot cocoa. By noon, a small team of volunteers had formed, and their energy pulsed through him like electricity. They shared ideas, and laughter spilled freely in the discussions, tying their hearts together, yet, amidst the rising tide of support, James remained keenly aware of the shadows lurking just outside his new circle. He spotted familiar faces at a distance, the same group from the day before, looking on with disdain. Their expressions tightened his spiraling hope, fear kneading through his stomach like a constant ache. But then he thought of Lily. Her bright spirit contrasted the looming darkness of worry. She was counting on him. A sudden resolve washed over him. He wouldn't let the judgments dictate his actions anymore. He would stand tall for something real and impactful. Later that day, with the sun sinking low, James met Lily at the park. Her excitement felt infectious, and they drafted flyers to distribute around the neighborhood together. She used colorful crayons to decorate them, each stroke vibrant with promise. "What if we told stories about the people we help?" Lily suggested, her eyes wide. "Stories of hope." "I love that idea," James replied, beaming. "Let us highlight how going beyond can create special moments." As they finished their task, completing the last flyer with bright drawings and messy handwriting, James felt the knot within him begin to loosen. Maybe, just maybe, their bravery could ignite something bigger in their community. As they began to set up a small table to gather signatures of support, James noticed a familiar figure approaching. It was one of the skeptics from yesterday. His heart raced. Could this person offer approval? Or would it lead to another rejection? James took a deep breath. It was time to face the truth of whether their heartfelt dream could weather the storm of scrutiny. One way or another, the next step was unfolding before them. Would their story resonate, or would they meet a new wall of resistance? James's heart pounded as the figure drew closer. He could see the familiar smirk, that mixture of disbelief and curiosity etched on the man's face. As he approached, James readied himself for whatever was coming: a scoff, a cutting remark, or worse, indifference. "Hey there," the man said, his arms crossing in front of him. "What's all this about?" He gestured to the flyers sprawled across the table, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the overcast sky above. Lily, ever undeterred by negativity, stepped forward. "We're planning a block party. It's to bring the community together and help those in need," she said cheerfully, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We want to show that everyone matters." The man raised an eyebrow, then glanced skeptically at James. "And you think a little party is going to change anything?" James felt a wave of emotions crash over him: anger, sadness, and an unwavering urge to prove this guy wrong. "Why not?" he replied, his voice steadier than he felt inside. "Sometimes, change starts small. It starts with us believing in our community. If we can inspire just a few people, that's a step in the right direction." The man shifted, his expression softening just a fraction. "You really think people will show up for that?" "Absolutely," James exclaimed, drawing in the fresh air mingled with the scent of the nearby blooming flowers. "We're rallying together. People want to connect, to share their stories and support each other. You'd be surprised what a little kindness can do." Through the corner of his eye, he noticed some of their temporary supporters bustling around, setting up chairs and tables, the sounds of laughter spilling into the cool air. A sense of camaraderie was already weaving its way into the fabric of this gathering. Hesitant, the man seemed to reconsider, his gaze flickering over Lily and then back to James. "I dunno, I've seen plenty of things like this fall apart before." "Then be part of the reason it doesn't," James urged, a new fire igniting in him. "You can help us make it a success. Helping doesn't take a big commitment, it takes heart. Join us. Show the community you care." The skeptic seemed to contemplate the weight of James's words. For just a moment, the tension between doubt and possibility hung in the air, and James dared to hope this stranger could sway towards their side. As if sensing the shifting ground beneath them, Lily grabbed the nearest flyer and handed it to the man. "Please, just read this. You might like what we're doing here." He took the flyer, inspecting it closely. The colors, the words, the heart behind it drew him in slightly. But would he alter his demeanor enough to join them? Seconds stretched into an eternity as they waited for his response. James's palms grew sweaty, and he held his breath, wishing only for a glimmer of understanding. Then, the air rippled with a sound. A child was laughing nearby. A few of their volunteers burst into a friendly banter, and a group of neighbors strolled by, glancing curiously at the impromptu scene. "All right," the man finally said, letting out a reluctant sigh. "I might be willing to give it a shot." Relief flooded through James, but it was tinged with awareness. This was just one moment, a thread woven into something far larger. Could they turn this initial acceptance into true community support? As the afternoon wore on, they continued their work. People started trickling in, some smiling at the sight, while others approached with guarded expressions. It was a mixed bag, much like life itself. James looked around, seeing the laughter within the group building momentum like a wave. The buzz of their plans began to rise above the low hum of skepticism in the air. He caught Lily's enthusiastic smile and felt the warmth of her belief thrumming in his chest. Yet, he felt the skepticism still lurking, waiting for its moment to strike, ready to push against everything they were building. The question lingered in the back of his mind: were they ready to handle the inevitable challenges that would come their way? In that moment of reflection, he realized they would have to dig deeper than ever before to hold on to this connection they were forging. They would have to stand strong against the storms of doubt and fear that were sure to come. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of orange and pink, James felt a seed of hope germinating within him. How would they nurture it to bloom against all odds? And just as he began contemplating this, a sudden commotion arose from the edge of the park, a commotion that would change everything they'd been working toward. The laughter grew into a chorus, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves, but it was the loud shout that drew everyone's attention. James turned, scanning the park, until his eyes landed on a small figure rushing towards them. A girl, no older than 10, with tangled hair and a tattered shirt, was waving her arms frantically. "Wait! Wait!" she called out, her voice piercing the ease of their busy afternoon. Everyone paused, their heads turning to see what this unexpected visitor wanted. Lily exchanged an encouraging glance with James before stepping toward the girl. "Hey there! What is going on?" The girl came to a halt, panting. She was flushed, her cheeks a deep shade of red. "I heard you're having a party. I want to help." James felt his heart swell. This wasn't just any help, this was a gesture rich with innocence and hope. "You want to help us?" he asked, kneeling down to meet her gaze. She nodded eagerly. "Yeah. I can be a sign holder or help set up. My name is Mia. I live nearby." "Wonderful." Lily laughed, her face lighting up. "We love your help, Mia. Every hand counts." James watched as Mia's smile spread wide, transforming her face in a way that made his heart ache with longing. Here was this child, despite her scrappy clothes and weary expression, radiating such enthusiasm. She was the embodiment of what they wanted to achieve, a connection between those who have the means and those who don't. "And you live nearby?" James asked, curious. "Do you have friends who might want to join too?" "Aha! I can tell them to come," Mia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Perfect. How about you go grab them, and I can show you what we're setting up." "I will." She spun on her heels, dashing away in a flurry of energy. James exchanged glances with Lily, both of them sharing a moment of unspoken joy. But as they began to prepare again, James felt an unease settle in his stomach. This warmth, the community tenderness, they could easily fracture under the weight of doubt. He looked around, seeking the man who had earlier joined them. "Hey," he called out, spotting the man listening to a couple of other volunteers nearby, his arms now uncrossed. James approached him, heart racing. "Did you see that? That's the spirit we need." The man gave him a slight smile. "Yeah, it was a good moment." "Good moment?" James pressed. "That was a spark. If she can feel this way, think of how many others can feel it too." "It's a nice thought," the man replied, but there was a softness in his tone that James hadn't noticed before. "But can it truly turn into something real?" Just then, an older woman stepped up, carrying a box full of supplies. "You won't believe the things I found while cleaning. What a treasure trove," she declared, laughter in her voice. But before anyone could respond, the crowd began to stir again. People were gathering, their eyes drawn to another commotion down the path. Sounds of raised voices intermingled with the cheerful atmosphere they created just moments before. "What now?" Lily asked, brow furrowing as she peered into the distance. James sensed the returning tide of concern. Would this be the moment that shattered their fragile beginnings? Would this disrupt the connection they were building so tenuously? He took a step forward, heart thudding against his chest, ready to face whatever storm was brewing. But deep inside, he wondered if today would show them the strength of their bonds or unravel everything they had worked so hard to build. What was about to unfold? Would the swarm of voices be a call for help or a reminder of what stood against them? James shoved through the growing crowd, his heart pounding louder with each step. The voices became clearer, a mixture of urgency and anger, weaving through the air like a storm brewing. He caught sight of a group of teenagers huddled together, their faces twisted with frustration as they shouted at an older man who appeared to be attempting to calm them down. "Leave him alone," one of the boys yelled, his fists clenched tightly at his sides. "He didn't do anything wrong." James felt a tight knot form in his stomach. This older man looked lost, his eyes darting back and forth as if searching for an escape route. And from the kids, it was clear that whatever had happened was escalating quickly. "What is going on?" James called out, pushing his way to the front. The scene felt charged, each second stretching out into what seemed like an eternity. The older man, wearing a worn-out jacket, took a shaky breath. "I'm just trying to get back to my tent. I didn't mean to cause any trouble," he said, his voice shaking along with his hands. "Trouble?" Another teenager scoffed. "You think you can just roam around here? You don't belong." Those words hung heavy in the air. James felt a rush of emotion up his throat. This wasn't just about the man or the kids, it was a reflection of the barriers they were all fighting against, the divisions that could easily tear them apart. In that moment, James grasped the man's gaze and gave a firm nod. "Hey! Everyone, listen." His voice was stronger than he felt, building from some deep place inside. "This man is a part of our community just like all of you. You don't understand what he is going through." The group fell silent, some surprised at the unexpected authority in his voice. The teenagers exchanged uncertain glances, unsure how to respond to someone so insistent. "Just hear me out," James continued, his eyes locking with the older man's. "This gathering is about bringing us all together. We want to lift each other up." Suddenly, Mia popped back into view, breathless and flanked by two other kids. "What is happening?" she shouted, her tiny voice slicing through the tension. She approached the group with innocent curiosity, eyes wide. "Is everything okay? We're supposed to be having fun." James's heart sank, but he felt a surge of hope. He turned to Mia and her friends. "What do you think would happen if we took a moment to understand each other? This man needs help, just like many people do. Can we show kindness?" Mia nodded earnestly, her young face reflecting a maturity that belied her age. "Yeah. We should help him." One of the teenagers finally stepped forward, looking contemplative. "Why should we care?" he asked, his voice softer than before. "Because," Mia replied, her sincerity cutting through the anger, everyone deserves help. My mom always says that. Silence enveloped the group, but this time, it felt different. The older man looked visibly taken aback, tears forming in his eyes. The raw emotion floating in the air had been acknowledged. As James took a step forward, he glanced at Lily, who stood close by, tears brimming in her eyes. There was something profound in that moment, a connection forming that brought a collective breath of hope back into the park. But just as it felt like a breakthrough was within reach, a loud siren blared in the distance, seizing everyone's attention. The kids turned their heads sharply, their expressions shifting from unity to confusion in an instant. What is going to happen now? Mia whispered, eyes wide with uncertainty. James felt the weight of the atmosphere shift again. Would this be another interruption to the delicate threads connecting them? He looked around, steeling himself for what was about to unfold. Behind him, laughter seemed to fade into the growing noise, the tension twisting tighter. What resolution could they find now? Would they band together, or splinter apart? As the siren grew ever closer, James couldn't shake the feeling that everything hinged on this moment. Would they rise to the occasion and fight for each other, or would the doubt drown them all? The siren became a ghost in the background, growing louder, drowning out the moment they had been building. A police car sped around the corner, its lights flashing wild and erratic. James could see the panic in the eyes of the teenagers, and he felt it too, a jolt of fear tightening his chest. Are we in trouble? One of the girls whispered, her voice shaky. No, no, James reassured, though he felt anything but certain. Just stay calm. The older man shifted nervously, his hands fidgeting with the frayed cuffs of his jacket. It was clear he wanted to disappear. James stepped closer, blocking him from view, showing solidarity in a moment that threatened to unravel everything. Let us try to keep the peace, he shouted over the wailing sirens, his voice steady. We're a community. We don't need division here. Mia's innocent optimism cut through, we can talk to them. They can help. Her small frame full of conviction rooted in genuine kindness. Look at her, James thought. She wasn't afraid. But could the rest of them follow her lead? In a moment of bravery, James took a step toward the police car that had just screeched to a halt. He raised both hands, palms out, hoping to convey calm. Maybe they'd see this as a community gathering and not a reason for chaos. But as the officers got out, their hands instinctively moved to the holster of their guns. The teenagers gasped, their earlier resilience giving way to fear. Wait! We're not doing anything wrong, shouted the boy in front again. We just want to help. Is everyone all right here? One of the officers, a tall man with a kind but firm demeanor, approached, looking past James to gauge the situation. James opened his mouth to speak, but the older man he had been defending took a step back, trembling. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. The officer turned his attention to the man. Sir, you okay? You need assistance. Before the old man could respond, something unexpected happened. One of the girls, Lily, her name sprang to James's mind, suddenly stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. Wait! She called out. He's part of our group. We're trying to help him. What do you mean help? The officer asked, still trying to understand with a hint of skepticism. James felt the moonlight flicker between the crowd and the officers, creating a small space for hope. This man, he just wanted to get home to his tent. No one here posed a threat. We're out here to lift each other up. The officer's brow furrowed, and he glanced back at his partner. There was a moment of simmering tension, but James could see the wheels turning in the officer's mind. Listen, the officer said, a softer tone creeping into his voice, we're just checking in, all right? Make sure everyone is safe. Everyone held their breath. It was a fragile truce, a pause before the inevitable explosion. But it was a moment, nonetheless, a breath of fresh air amidst a gathering storm. You see? James turned back to the crowd. We can work together. We just need to recognize each other as humanity. But just as cooperation seemed possible, a deafening crash echoed through the air. James whipped around, heart racing, to see another group approaching, faces distorted with tension. "Who are they?" he whispered under his breath. Mia clutched his hand, eyes wide with fear, and James felt that knot tightening in his stomach again. Did they have enough courage to confront the next wave of uncertainty? As the newcomers drew nearer and the crowd whispered amongst themselves, the answer lay unanswered in the air, thick with anxiety. Could they unite their strengths to create a shield, or were they in for a confrontation that might shatter everything they had just built? The uncertainty loomed, an invitation to the next moment of truth. Would solidarity prevail, or would they find themselves scattered again? The newcomers stepped into the flickering light, and James's heart stopped. They were older, their faces worn and hardened by something deeper than just the night. It was an unwanted reminder of the struggles he wished to shield his friends from. "Mia, stay close," he murmured, squeezing her hand tighter. He could feel her small fingers trembling, the weight of fear pressing against her youthful spirit. The tension hung thick in the air, pulsing like a living thing. The gathering crowd shifted nervously, whispering among themselves. James turned to the officer, silently pleading for some sign of support. The officer returned his gaze, but the unease still flickered in his eyes. One man from the new group stepped forward. He was tall, with tattoos snaking up his arms, a map of his life etched into his skin. "We heard there was noise," he said, voice low. "What is going on here?" "We're just gathering," James replied, hoping his words would carry both weight and reassurance. "Gathering?" The man scoffed, glancing at the police, then back at James. "Looks more like trouble." James took a deep breath, summoning courage. "No, it's not like that. We're here to support this man." He pointed to the older man, still trembling, who had now stepped behind him like a frightened child. The man eyed the older man suspiciously. "And why should we trust you?" "Because we're all in this together," Mia piped up, her voice steady and strong despite the atmosphere. "We want to help, just like you probably do." Surprised by her boldness, James felt a flicker of pride igniting within him. If a little girl could be brave, maybe they all could. The tattooed man exchanged glances with a few others, assessing the group before him. "Help? What does that even mean?" "Look," James said, "things are tough for everyone. But here we are, trying to keep the peace and support one another." The words hung in the air, weighty and vulnerable. James watched as the man shifted, his expression softening, if only slightly. The edges of the tension began to fray. "There's a lot of hurt in this town," the newcomer admitted, voice quieter now. "People are scared. And angry." His gaze drifted past James, taking in the hopeful faces around them, the palpable sense of community beginning to form. "Then let us find a way to change that," James said, his heart quickening. "We can either tear each other down or build something better together. You think it can work?" A girl from the new group asked, her skepticism breaking slightly, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. James inhaled deeply again, feeling the weight of their collective fears resting on his shoulders. "It starts with trust. We just need to be honest with each other." He gestured to the older man, who stood rooted in place. "Let him tell his story. We can listen. Together." The crowd seemed to pulse with a new energy, and James felt hope threading through the air. The officers exchanged quick glances, still unsure, but he caught a flicker of understanding in one's eyes. And then, without warning, the crash shattered the moment once more. A spray of voices erupted from the shadows, and the newcomer's body tensed in an instant. "What now?" James whispered to himself, dread curling in his stomach. Would everything they tried to build come crumbling down again? This was a chance to rise above division, to unify in their struggles. But at that moment, chaos erupted, and he realized that every new hope came paired with its own equally daunting challenge. Could they manage to keep everything they had worked for, just as the shadows closed in? The answer loomed like a threatened storm, daring to consume them all. The crowd gasped as the noise erupted from the shadows, a chaos of voices clashing like thunder. James felt the tension snap like a tightrope stretched too far. He clasped Mia's hand, pulling her slightly behind him, heart racing. The flickering light spun and danced, shadows morphing into specters of fear. He squinted into the dark, searching for the source. A group of teenagers burst into view, faces lit by anger and confusion. They were brandishing sticks, acting as if they were defending territory rather than battling for connection. The tattooed man stepped forward, eyes blazing with intensity. "What do you want?" he shouted, a mixture of challenge and protection. "Back off, old man." One of the teenagers spat, his voice sharp and wild. "We don't want any trouble, but we want to let you push us around." James felt the dread in his stomach deepen. This wasn't just about the newcomers or his group anymore, it was spiraling into something larger, something darker. A power struggle where everyone spoke, but no one listened. "Maybe we can figure this out," James called, hoping to cut through the chaos. "We don't need to fight." The dark-haired leader of the teens paused, confusion flickering in his eyes. "What do you know about it?" "I know we're all afraid," James said, voice steady despite the pounding of his heart, "but fighting won't help any of us. We can create something better if we work together." For a moment, the world felt still. The air crackled with tension, as if time itself held its breath. Slowly, the leader's expression softened, doubt washing over his face. A small voice piped up from within the ranks of teenagers, an unexpected interruption. "Why are we fighting? It doesn't make sense." Everyone turned toward the girl, no more than 12, her wide eyes shining under the pale light. She clutched a worn-out doll to her chest, innocence radiating from her very being. The tattooed man bent down, capturing her gaze, an unspoken connection forming. "Because we're scared," he said, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "And we don't know how to trust anymore." James seized the moment, stepping forward. "None of us do, but what if we tried? Let us share our stories. Let us build something real." A ripple of uncertainty passed through the crowd, but Mia squeezed James's hand tighter, her wide eyes filled with determination. "I want to help," she declared, voice bright and firm. "We can start here." The older man, still quaking, stepped forward, perhaps guided by the innocence of the girl and the bravery of Mia. "I have a story," he uttered, voice shaky yet resolute. "And I think it's time I shared it." With the rising tension, the air shifted. Imperceptibly at first, the weight of the moment transformed into something fragile yet hopeful. The teenagers hesitated, exchanging glances, recognition dawning upon them as they stepped closer, united by curiosity. They had come armed and ready to defend, but they were now tentatively listening. As the older man began to speak, recounting his struggles and the pain that had pushed him to the fringes, James felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through the anxious crowd. This wasn't about divisions anymore, it was about understanding, sharing the scars that shaped them. But just as the first tears began to flow, a chilling shout echoed from the edge of the park, a reminder that danger still lurked nearby. "Get away from them, you fools!" a voice bellowed. James's heart sank. Could this fragile moment survive the storm that threatened to obliterate it? Would they be able to rise above the fear that loomed just beyond their gathering? Uncertainty mingled with hope, as they stood on the brink of an unknown future. Could they truly unite and create a place where healing could begin before chaos interrupted again? When the harshness of the shout echoed across the park, panic rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. James clenched Mia's hand tighter, feeling her fear pulse through him. But he also felt something else, a strength forged in unity. Turning toward the source of the disruption, he noticed a man disheveled, wild-eyed, his voice carrying a rage that dripped with sorrow. "Look at them. They think they're heroes, but they can't fix what's broken." The man's words cut through the air, drawing gasps and shudders from the gathering that had only just begun to find its footing. James took a deep breath and stepped forward, heart racing, eyes steady. "You have a story too," he called, trying to reach the anger that masked potential pain. "We want to listen." The man scoffed, laughter tinged with bitterness. "Listen. These people don't care about me. They just want to have their little party." A few teenagers echoed his disbelief, nodding along, but Mia, sweet and determined, stepped forward. "We care. We all want to help. Just like you." Her innocence, like a gentle wave, started washing away the sharp edges of tension. The man froze for a heartbeat, surprise flickering across his face. James could see the subtle shift, the cracks forming in the anger. "What do you know?" he challenged, though the bite had dulled. "I know that you're hurting, just like everyone here," James replied, voice steadying with conviction. "Why don't you tell us how you got here? Maybe we can find a way to help you, too." For a moment, silence enveloped them, the gravity of the moment hanging thick in the air. The man looked over the faces in the crowd, some uncertain, some silently supportive. Were they truly willing to connect, to come together despite their different battles? "Tell your story," one of the teenagers urged, stepping forward, empathy blossoming in his stance. "Maybe we're all tired of fighting." As he spoke, the tension began to dissolve, the edges blurring between them. The man's facade cracked, and he began to speak, voice quaking with uncertainty. "I lost everything, my job, my family. It's exhausting. And no one cares. I'm invisible." His words tumbled forth, raw and unfiltered. For the first time, there was no animosity, just a shared understanding of fear and loss. In those moments, he laid bare his struggles, revealing how the weight of despair could turn one bitter toward the world. There was an outpouring of humanity then. One by one, stories flowed, the gathering turning into a tapestry of life woven together in shared experiences. Each voice held its own pain, reason for distrust, and yet through each thread, there was the potential for healing. James watched the transformation unfold before him, feeling their hearts gradually opening. Mia stepped back, eyes wide, but her hand remained tightly clasped in his, a living reminder of hope. "Together," James said, raising his voice just enough to catch everyone's attention again. "Together, we can help. But it starts with us believing in one another." Some of the newcomers exchanged glances, nodding slowly against their walls of skepticism. The tattooed man shifted, and for the first time, he caught James's eyes, searching for solidarity rather than confrontation. "I just want to make it home again," he whispered, vulnerability tinging his admission. "Well, we're here now," James responded. "Why don't we walk together?" At that moment, the group began to take a collective breath, the air no longer heavy with uncertainty, but light with possibility. The initial anger, the tension, it washed away like a tide pulled back from a shore, revealing the building of compassion underneath. Then, the sirens faded, replaced by murmurs of agreement echoing through the crowd. Some began to step closer, sharing food and laughter, extending hands to one another. The police officers bore witness, surprise flickering across their serious expressions, arms lowering even as their roles shifted to protectors of this fragile moment. James took a leap of faith, motioning toward the older man who had cowered in the background. "Your story matters. And it's not just one man, it's a community fighting to not feel invisible anymore." With an encouraging nod, that man stepped forward as well. "I matter too. We all do." And within this park, with the backdrop of spinning lights and gentle voices, lives began to intersect, pointing like stars toward a brighter future. Connections formed and emotions swelled, punctured only by laughter, hope bubbling in the air. Days would still come when the shadows would threaten to overshadow their efforts. But today, standing side by side, they learned what it felt like to overcome together, what it meant to stand in solidarity, tearing down barriers with compassion rather than anger. Mended hearts began to heal, the spirit of unity igniting passions, inspiring others to dream. As they cheered, so did the world outside the walls of the park begin to shift, recognizing that real wealth was found in human connection. Their battle for unity had begun, but in that moment, each buried hurt was nurtured by the warmth of belief in one another. James looked down at Mia, a radiant smile lighting her face, he realized they had done something profound. They hadn't just rallied the community for a block party, they had ignited hope. "Let us keep shining, together," he announced, arms spread wide. And together they would shine, defying the odds, lighting the way for many more to come. What once seemed like an impossible journey now became a celebration of shared humanity, living proof that nothing was beyond reach when hearts united. This was just the beginning. And with that, the community let out a cheer, and their laughter rang through the night, echoing out into the world, an anthem of hope and resilience. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss our next exclusive stories. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions to this heartwarming ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support this channel. Show your love today.